Hi guys and welcome back to the Mighty Blues. My name is of course Cameron. It is the player ratings. Newcastle United 1, Everton 0 at St James's Park last night. We are going to fly straight through these because it is 11 o'clock the next morning and we've just done the instant match reaction. So if you haven't checked that out, please do so after this live stream, and we will be live at around 5 o'clock with the game review to this game as well. So loads of content today, loads of discussions about this game, even though we don't really want to have loads of discussions about this game because it was, as I said in the instant match reaction, for me, Everton's worst performance of the season. A real lack of desire, a real lack of fight, a real lack of intensity, a real lack of energy, and you add that to the quite evident lack of quality that we have in this team, especially in the forward areas, and that becomes quite worrying, and that becomes quite concerning when you when you add all of that together. But anyway, this is the player ratings. If you're new to this show, it's the show where we rate every player's performance from 1 to 10, and we have a little bit of a discussion about them individually. So let's get straight into it. Jordan Pickford. I'm going to give Jordan I'm going to give him a 6 out of 10. Now, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt with the goal because I haven't seen it back more than a couple of times, and I do think there is an argument to be made that his view was a little bit impaired, and I do think that there's an argument to be made that he maybe couldn't have done an awful lot more than what he did for the goal. It's absolutely shocking defending. It's a shocking show of a lack of commitment and desire by Demarai Gray to just stand there and watch Miguel Almiron with about 5 miles of space to get that shot off. And I think if we're sitting here and looking at the goal and trying to, decide whose fault it was and whose header it was, I think Jordan Pickford's name probably comes into the question, but not by any sense of the imagination as the main culprit. Having said that, for a goalkeeper who is one of the best in the world and for a goalkeeper who is at the absolute top of his game, he maybe should have done a little bit better in getting to it. Other than that, he didn't have anything to do, did he? I think his distribution was relatively okay. I don't remember many times being frustrated or being annoyed with his kicking or his long balls or whatever. I was annoyed at the fact that the tactic seemed to be just lash it up to Dominic Calvert-Lewin or Neil Mowbray and hope that, they get on the end of it. But I don't think that's a Jordan Pickford thing. I think that's more of a tactical thing. Other than that, he didn't have anything to do, did he? Newcastle United, as I said in the instant match reaction, were absolutely woeful yesterday. They offered absolutely nothing, and when they went 1-0 up, other than a 10-15 minute spell in the first half where they played the ball around nicely, they didn't ever look like scoring again. And I suppose, luckily for Newcastle United, Everton never looked like scoring at any point, so they didn't need to score again. But yeah, I don't think Jordan had a particularly massive amount to do other than that, and therefore I think he probably deserves that rating. Onto the fullbacks then. Vitaly Mykolenko, he's getting a 1 for me. I thought he was absolutely abysmal, abysmal. I thought defensively he was torn inside out. There were 1 or 2 times where he got the better of his attacker. There were 1 or 2 times when he won the ball back. There were 1 or 2 times when he was able to get the better of his winger. But other than that, far too many times he was beaten comfortably. Far too many times he was caught out of possession. Far too many times he was, the ball come down that left hand side, or Newcastle's right hand side. Whether it was getting switched from the left hand side or whether it was just being played down there, it was far too easy for them to formulate an opportunity. Far too easy for them to formulate space from that side of the pitch. Going forward, I said this in the interaction. Going forward, he offers absolutely nothing. Vitaly Mykolenko, absolutely nothing. And that is the sacrifice that I think Everton have made and Frank Lampard has made by, well, not Frank Lampard because obviously he wasn't brought in when Frank was here, but that Everton have made in bringing in a left back that, offers us absolutely nothing going forward. However, is, relatively solid 9 times out of 10 defensively, but you will get a time when he's not solid defensively, and yesterday was that game. I thought he was really, really, really poor. And as usual, he didn't do anything going forward. So, yeah, wasn't impressed by him whatsoever yesterday. Really, really wasn't. Centre-half then, Tarkowski. I'm going to give him a 7. I thought he was probably our man of the match. I thought defensively, again, he was absolutely sound. He had a couple of shaky moments when the ball got caught underneath him, or he tried to cut inside when he maybe shouldn't have, but he dealt with it really, really well. Nothing led to a goal, nothing led to a chance, nothing led to, anything other than a brief moment of panic, and then a really, really well experienced defender, sort of recovering in a really, really good manner. And other than the 1 or 2 times that happened, he was really, really solid throughout the rest of the game. Defensively, was very good. Dealt with Callum Wilson very well. Callum Wilson, by the way, what an idiot that footballer is. What an absolute idiot he is. But dealt with him really well. Dealt with everything that was thrown at him that he needed to really, really well as well. And as I said, barring a couple of moments of panic that he dealt with instantly, I thought he was very, very good again. There's a common theme going on here. Even in the games that Everton don't particularly perform well, even in the games that Everton lose, James Tarkowski is always the one player that you sort of look at and you go, well, he was good today. Even if everybody else was absolutely abysmal, he was good. Cody next to him then. I'm going to give Cody a 6.5. I thought he was, again, equally as solid as Tarkowski, really. Dealt with everything that he needed to do and that he needed to deal with in a relatively solid manner. The reason he's getting a little bit less of a score is because I think his passing was significantly worse than James Tarkowski's yesterday. There were a couple of passes that Cody had that were far too heavy, weren't weighted correctly, and ultimately were mistimed and misplaced. And in a game that Everton, a second half that Everton have had a lot of the ball and shown a real lack of any sort of creativity. I think, when players have got the ball at their feet and their passing isn't particularly as it should be, or they're misplacing passes, or passes are too heavy, you have to pick up on that. As good as Cody was defensively, and as good as Cody's passing has been in recent weeks, I think yesterday it let him down a little bit, and ultimately it formed part of the reason as to why we didn't have anywhere near enough quality to get something out of the game. But as a defender, I thought he done a decent job. He done a decent job. Right back then, Seamus Coleman. Seamus is getting a 2. I think he was marginally better than Vitaly Mykolenko, if I'm being honest. I think he was marginally better than Vitaly Mykolenko. In the sense that there were a couple of difficult bits of defending that Seamus had to do, and he did well. But other than that, yeah, listen, I love Seamus. I think he's great. I think he's been a great servant for Everton. I think he's been a fantastic captain, a fantastic role model, and Seamus deserves the world. And I'm sure Seamus will get whatever he wants from the football club, because that's what he deserves. Reality is he shouldn't be starting Premier League games of football. We know this because we brought in another right back in Nathan Patterson. But even with Nathan being out injured, I still think we have to look for an alternative to Seamus Coleman, because I don't even think Seamus is capable of stepping in whilst Nathan Patterson's out injured and doing a good job. Okay, maybe for one game or a couple of games he is, but not consistently over week in, week out in the Premier League. He just isn't quick enough. He just isn't fast enough. He just hasn't got the stamina. There was 3 or 4 opportunities in the opening, in the first half, in the first 20 minutes, where I can't remember who it was on the left-hand side for Newcastle, but whoever it was just knocked it past them and just ran beyond them, and it was like, right, that's it then. That's him completely out the game, and that's just not good enough. You need more than that. You need at least somebody out there who's got the pace and the stamina to be able to keep up with the play, to be able to keep up with what's going on, because otherwise you just become so easy to attack, because all his attackers need to do is knock the ball past and run, and that's all that Newcastle attackers did yesterday. So yeah, as I said, again, I don't blame Seamus Coleman, but I also don't subscribe to this notion of, well, you can't blame him because he shouldn't be there. We know he shouldn't be there. He's too old. He's in there for the replacement. I can blame him because he was on that pitch yesterday and he was fucking atrocious. So that's why he gets the score that he gets. Into the midfield then, Garner. I'm going to give Garner I'm going to give him a 5.5. I think in the first half he was very good. I think he moved the ball around well when he had it. Thought he intercepted a couple of times really, really well. Got in the way and put himself about. Done exactly what he needed to do ultimately to frustrate Newcastle on a couple of occasions. I say the first half, the first 10 or 15 minutes of the first half. Got himself in the way of passes. Made sure that, Newcastle, it wasn't easy for Newcastle to move the ball. Made sure that Newcastle, couldn't move it through the midfield in a comfortable manner. However, after the 10 or 15 minutes, when everybody's head sort of dropped strangely, I think he was completely out of the game from that point. The second half, okay, his passing was okay. And I don't think he was particularly bad in terms of he made mistakes or he was at fault for anything or whatever. But yeah, I just think you expect more and you want more from a Gisagana guy. Again, I said it in instant match reaction, and I'll say it again. The second half performance was very much. It was almost like we were winning 1-0. Sideways passing, backward, and he contributed to that. Sideways passing, backwards passing, not really looking for space. And you could say, well, that's not Garner's fault. It's everybody else's fault for not moving around him and not creating space and not giving him an option and not giving him something to work with. Well, reality is, I'm not going to sit here and go, he's an 8 out of 10 because his passing sideways and backwards was great when we've lost the game 1-0. So, Iwobi, I'm going to give him a 6. I thought he was marginally better. Thought his effort and determination was more consistent throughout the game, but still was nowhere near the Alex Iwobi that we've grown to love this season. I said that against Spurs, he wasn't as involved as me maybe would have liked him to have been against Spurs. And he wasn't as involved as we would have liked him to have been yesterday as well. There just wasn't that involvement there. And ultimately, you need that involvement because, that is, that Alex Iwobi involvement can be the difference between you getting something out of the game and you're not getting something out of the game. And he wasn't as involved as I and I think every other Evertonian would have liked him to have been yesterday. And he didn't do anything bad. He wasn't at fault for any mistakes, or it wasn't particularly awful. His passing was okay, wasn't great. But you expect more from him. You expect more, and when you don't get more from him, then I think everybody's got a right to be disappointed. Onana's getting a 5. I thought he was the worst out of the 3 for that 15-20 minute spell in the first half, where he was just abysmal. Second half, he grew into the game a little bit more than the first 10 minutes of the first half. He was okay, but I don't know whether he had a knock. I don't know whether he was struggling. I don't know whether he, was hurt. I don't know. I don't know, but for that 20 minutes of the first half when Newcastle got the goal and when they had a couple of chances, he was woeful. He was absolutely woeful. And he did look like a player who was carrying an injury. Maybe he was, and then he managed to shake it off, and that was why he improved. I don't know, but yeah. Again, similar to Iwobi, similar to Gray, you expect more. And if I'm being honest, I think we're due a change in the midfield. I don't know what that change is. I don't know, and I don't necessarily think it's like for like. Take Garner out and put James Garner in, or take Onana out and put James Garner in. I think there needs to be a change in system. I think there needs to be a change in formation, but I think there needs to be a change because, yeah, the midfield weren't very good the other day. Forward line, look, I'm going to skip through these because I've got to go to work. Gordon's getting a 1. He was fucking atrocious. It was his worst performance in an Everton shirt. He offered absolutely nothing. Could he have had a penalty? I've not seen it again, but maybe. But other than that, he doesn't offer anything. He doesn't offer anything creatively for the strikers. He doesn't offer anything of a spark to, get a chance himself and score. He's not a threat in front of goal. He just falls over anytime he's in front of goal. He's very aggressive and was probably lucky to not get a sending off yesterday in terms of a couple of the aggressive challenges he was going in with when he was on a yellow. Yeah, he was awful. He was absolutely awful. He's getting a 1. Damari Gray is getting a 3. I don't think he was much better. He had that one cross in the second half where he put it across the box and Iwobi strangely jumped at it for some reason. But other than that, I think Damari's at fault for the goal. He's completely ball watching and just standing round when he should be marking his man. And again, similar to Anthony Gordon, he didn't offer anything to the strikers. He didn't put himself about. He didn't move the ball particularly well. Every time he had the ball on the attack, it was wasted. Wrong decision making. Not enough quality. Not good enough. And Dominic Calvert-Lewin, I'll give Dom a 4 on the basis that it was his return from injury. It was good to see him back. It was his first game back. It was a big physical game. He's looking fitter. He's looking healthier, as Frank Lampard said. Reality is, he didn't have any involvement. He had one chance, which was headed over the bar, which I haven't seen again. But on first look, I thought he should have done better. But bearing in mind, my first look was literally sat on fucking Mars watching the game, because that's where you are in St James's Park. But yeah, no real involvement in the game, and that was what we feared. I sat here when we done the preview and said, listen, you know, if you've got no creativity, if you've got nobody creating for Dominic Calvert-Lewin or Neil Maupay or these players, then they won't you won't get chances, and they won't create chances for themselves, and that's exactly what we seen yesterday. Subbed them, Dwight McNeil, 5. Yeah, did he do anything? Come on, touch the ball a couple of times. Again, his passing accuracy might be great, and his stats might be great, but he didn't affect the game. He was brought on to affect the game, and he didn't affect the game at the end of the day. Same with Neil Maupay. Neil Maupay gets a 4 because his socks were wrong. I don't know how the fuck you've managed to get your socks wrong, but your socks were wrong. Again, he was brought on to affect the game, and he didn't affect the game. In fact, he can get a 3 because I think there was a couple of times he had the ball at his feet, and he was atrocious with it. And then James Garner, he can get a 5. I know some people will say, oh, that's not fair, and he come on and he looked bright and this, that and the other. Again, he was brought on to affect the game, and he didn't affect the game. Now, whether that's a little bit harsh, and whether that's me being a little bit, too harsh on him, I don't know. But the reality is, he was brought on to change the game, and he didn't. So, there you go. Look, we are going to leave it there then. If you have enjoyed this one, please do leave a like. As I said, the instant match reaction is up on the channel now. We'll be live about 5 o'clock with the game review, so don't forget to join us for that one as well. Massive thank you all for watching. Leave a like on this one if you have enjoyed it. Subscribe if you are new, and we'll see you later.